What's going on, Wolfpack? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite show on the interwebs. Hopefully, I always hope. It's another episode of Market Watch Mondays. I think I got a pretty cool episode for you guys today. We're in the heart of rookie draft season. The NFL draft has just passed us by. Wish it lasted longer, but you know what? Just like Christmas, it doesn't last that long. But it does bring us into rookie draft season, which is one of my favorite times of the year. And if you're like me, you're in a bunch of leagues, and I've already done like 4 or 5 rookie drafts, so I figured I would use this opportunity to cover rookie draft theory. Not only the theory, though, I'm going to bring in an example of a rookie draft that I did and show you step by step the decisions I made, my process, and how I landed into the result that I did. So it's kind of a little bit of theory mixed with practice today. Finally take a lot of the theory that I've been preaching over and over again and see how I actually enact it and play it out in practice. All right, so that's the goal today, setting up the draft and the backstory and just walking through all my decisions. I also put out a thread about this on Twitter, like literally maybe like 15-20 minutes ago, so I will link that in the comments below. So if you want to look at step by step how that played out in written form, you're welcome to do that. But I'm going to be going in a lot more depth here for you, the Wolfpack, the YouTube channel, the BDG faithful. I always got your back, you know that. But before we get started, man, y'all know what time it is. Hit that intro, baby. All right, let's get it started. So first, I want to talk a little bit about rookie draft strategy. And my rookie draft strategy year to year is pretty similar with a couple of tweaks. Now having gone through 4 or 5 rookie drafts, I kind of understand where the value is. I kind of understand where people are at, and I've tailored my strategy to this year. But, one of the underlying concepts that I rarely, if ever, deviate from is this. Do not reach for subpar running back profiles in the late first and early second rounds. Those are landmines, man. Just like how in redraft, people always talk about rounds 3 to 6 are the landmines for running backs there. In rookie drafts, those are the landmines for rookies. If you think back and look back to what happened over the past few years, you're not going to like what you see, right? What you get is guys like Devin Singletary, Keyshawn Vaughn, right? These types of guys that are sneaking up into the late first round. And why does that happen? It's because running backs are valuable. Everyone and their moms know that running backs are valuable, except for zero RB zealots. So good luck to y'all. Keep doing the mental gymnastics you guys want to keep doing to go down that path. But most people, living here in the real world, know that running backs are very, very valuable, and you need them to win in your fantasy drafts. So what happens is everyone tends to reach for running backs. But here's the catch, right? When you reach for running backs in the early rounds, right, because there's only a couple stud running backs, especially in this class, there's really only 2 or 3 running backs you could be comfortable drafting in the first, in my opinion. What happens is a lot of the wide receiver talent gets pushed down the board, right? So those reaches in the early rounds kind of benefit whoever is willing to soak up value in the late first and early second. That's always how it's been. If you look back at last year, right, when people are reaching up in their drafts for guys like Keyshawn Vaughn, we were here saying, like, do not do that. Go for T. Higgins. T. Higgins in the second round, early second round, is a smash pick, right? And you have those types of profiles, although may not be as good as T. Higgins. You do have some still pretty good profiles for wide receivers this year in those late rounds. And in 2019, what were people doing? Reaching for Devin Singletary, reaching for David Montgomery. David Montgomery was like a top 5 pick in 2019, which I cannot really understand at all given his draft capital and his profile, right? And what happened? Guys like A.J. Brown, guys like DK Metcalf all got pushed down the board. So those who were sitting there in the late first were just making bank. And last year it was T. Higgins and Justin Jefferson. And this year, you probably won't have a Justin Jefferson because you don't have a profile as good. We probably won't have a T. Higgins, don't have a profile as good, other than Jamar Chase, who will be going much earlier. But there are still guys you can get very, very good value later. So do not fall for the trap of reaching for running back later versus reaching for running back early. Like, if you have to reach for a running back, it's way better to do it early, in my opinion. This is why, because if you look at how the draft falls right now, would you rather have like a Najee Harris plus a Rashad Bateman, or like a Jamar Chase plus like a Michael Carter or Trey Sermon, right? Like the difference there, like as good as Jamar Chase is, as much as I love Jamar Chase, right? As much as I love him, like he's the top prospect, but like the gap between him and a Rashad Bateman for me is a lot smaller than the gap between a Najee Harris and like a Michael Carter or a Trey Sermon. So that's how I look at it, right? First round running backs with first round NFL draft capital are hard to come by. So if you're going to reach up early and then capture the value that falls because of those reaches later on. So you're kind of like having your cake and eating it too, because you're reaching, right, which you shouldn't be doing, but in reaching, what happens is you push a lot of the wide receiver value on the board. So if you're there at the back part of the first or early second, then you're there to catch the value. And if you didn't have that running back to begin with, then you just all you have to do is sit there and soak up the value. And I've been through so many drafts now where I've landed Rashad Bateman or, like a Rondale Moore or someone like that in the early second, late first, or even like a Jalen Waddle, who I'm a big fan of, right? Like those guys are there, and there's no world that I'm going to reach for a running back there. I understand, running backs matter, and trust me, I draft running back over wide receiver almost everywhere else. But this is the one exception because it is littered with landmines that I do not want to touch, right? So that's number one. If you're going to reach for running back, do it early on. Do not do it later, right? And two, I always preach this in startups, but it's applicable to rookies too, and it's trading back, right? The power of trading back, the compounding effects, which you will see through one of my examples, cannot be understated. Now, you're not going to be able to land like a bunch of firsts every single time, but if you're in the Patreon, some of the Patreon members have been implementing the strategy already. I have had my eyes set on the 2023 class for a while, and most people, if you're new to Dynasty, are like, oh wow, that's like 2 years down the line. Who cares? Like, I'll give up that pick for a contending team. That's really the mindset of a lot of people that are playing Dynasty, right? Especially those who are new. So some of the Patreon members have been cleaning up in their leagues. One of them is in the BBB league, BBB listener league with Noah and I. Luck of the Polish, like he's just been absolutely crushing. Like we went through the rookie draft and he added like 4 or 5 like 2023 and 2022 first just by trading back because people are like, hey, look, that's 2 years out. I'm trying to win now. And honestly, he took the entire league to town and fleeced like most people. But you got to respect the hustle because he was in the Patreon. I was talking about the strategy with the Patreon members for the last like couple of months now, and he just took it and implemented it. And it pained me because Noah and I are in that league, and now we have to deal with this monster, this beast that we've created. But it works, right? It works in new leagues and it works in experienced leagues. It works in any league. It might not work to the same degree, but you got to aim to do it, this method, and you will absolutely love and yield the results. And it's a little bit of delayed gratification, right? Because it's like, it's really hard for people to overcome that mentality of like, wow, like my guy is on the board, right? My guy's on the board, and I think he could be an impact player for me. And that might be true. That might very well be true. But diversifying that risk and adding future first and accruing that value should always pay off and will always pay off for you in the long run. So those who are willing to take on that delayed gratification, trust me when I say this, you will see in this next draft that I show you, you will be absolutely jumping out of your boots at the opportunity that you can get 1 or 2 years down the line, right? So that's why I do it. Delayed gratification, it sucks to do it, but it pays off, and trust me when I say this, you will yield the benefits and you will not regret it. All right, those are a couple of things I really want to cover, and then the last thing I want to talk about in this draft is after about 14 or 15 picks, I'm not too comfortable drafting anyone else beyond that, especially after the NFL draft where Terrace Marshall tumbled down the boards. I was in on him before, but like I'm kind of concerned about his medicals because like that kind of tells me the NFL did a lot of digging in his medicals. They weren't too comfortable. Ethan, who is a PT on Twitter and does like a lot of injury analysis, he had Terrace Marshall as one of the highest risk rookies in terms of missing games coming into this season. So those two things kind of like make it a little bit dodgy. But if you want to include him in there, that's totally fair too. He's still a very, very good prospect and a very, very good player. So, but after the top 15 players are gone, I'm really not too comfortable drafting anyone. So what I've been doing and what I encourage all of you to do is to punt those future picks into another year. So trading for 2023, 2022 first or 2022, 2023 seconds and pushing that decision later, because instead of drafting very risky bust-like profiles, I would much rather delay that gratification and delay that decision to a future year, and more importantly, lock up the value there and be able to use those picks and provide myself with the flexibility and optionality to trade in and out of players as I see fit throughout the season, right? You can't do that once you draft a player, because once you draft a player, you can only trade that player to other players who like him. And once you get into those rounds, there aren't too many players. You're not going to find too many players where like half the league or 4 or 5 different people also want him, because this class did not turn out to be as good, right? So what happened is the second round picks now, they still have value, but in my eyes, the true value is trading out of them into future draft classes. So whether that's 2022 or 2023, and especially in those third or fourth rounds, I don't even want to pick players, right? When I'm on the clock right now in third or fourth rounds, I just message the league and I say, hey, any of you guys have a player you want, send me any future third or fourth, this pick is yours. And I've been able to get that transaction done more often than not. So try and do that. So those are the three main concepts that I want you to grasp and capture in this rookie draft in 2021 specifically. And I will show you now exactly how it played out for one of my leagues. Now, to set the stage, this is a 14-team Superflex PPR 0.25 points per carry league. So that's a boost for running backs, as well as a 2 PPR tight end premium league. So all tight ends get 2 PPR instead of 1 PPR for running backs and wide receivers. So it's a pretty heavy tight end premium format, and also it's 14 teams, and that really changes things. People don't realize this, but in 14 teams, the value of quarterbacks goes up substantially, because if you think about the supply and demand in a 12-team league, if everyone owns 2 quarterbacks, right, then you have 24 quarterbacks off the board, and the rest of the quarterbacks are usually pretty shitty, so you don't have to worry about it. But in a 14-team league, if everyone owns 2 quarterbacks, Superflex is what you want, because you want to start 2 quarterbacks, that's 28 quarterbacks off the board. I cannot name you 28 quarterbacks that I want on my roster, right? So it really drives up the demand for quarterbacks and drives up the price. So it's not unusual to see 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks go right off the board in the top picks, even if there's like stud running backs on the board, right? And in this class, where there's a lot of stud quarterbacks available, that's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes the value of the draft. So that's something to keep in mind. But basically, I did this league as a startup, and I did it as a productive struggle, because I've noticed in the startup, people were more willing to trade up and give their future rookie picks in order to get their guys. And in that type of environment, I'm always happy to trade back. I'm always happy to trade back and give up those stud running backs and give up those stud quarterbacks so I can plan for a future year. And it gives me flexibility, and all I care about from that point on is value. I don't care about rosters. I don't care about starting lineups. I don't care about anything. If anything, I want as little points scored in my starting lineup as possible. So that's exactly what I did. I drafted no running backs. I drafted like a couple quarterbacks just because they were at value, hoping to flip them later on, which I did. But that was my basic strategy, right? And if I'll give you guys a look into what my roster looked like. But basically, after the draft had completed, I left the draft with about 4 2021 firsts and 4 2022 firsts. So 6 extra firsts from where I started in the draft, which is awesome, right? Because it gives me that flexibility to deal those picks later on. And that was as of 2020. And then obviously I went into the year, right? And I had a couple main priorities coming out of the draft. One, I want to stay flexible. You guys hear me say it all the time. I always want to maintain flexibility in my drafts. That's number one priority, no matter what, right? 2, also what I wanted to do was make sure that I landed the 2021 1.01, because at that point we already knew like what Trevor Lawrence was going to be, right? He was going to be that stud. He's already being touted as the best quarterback prospect ever, right? So that was one of my goals, because I knew if I could do that, I could flip him for a haul, and if I couldn't, he would prove as a great foundational stone to build my team around for the future. And then 2, I want to accumulate as many 2021 picks and as many 2022 picks as possible. And then 3, which I already mentioned, focus on value accrual only. Do not care about roster limits. So I never needed to trade for need. I was always willing to trade back, because if the value was there, I was going to take it. I didn't care who was on the board. I didn't care what roster fills I needed to make. I was always willing to make that trade. And that's what flexibility brings you. So coming out of it, I think I was pretty successful, right? I told you I ended up with, 4 2021 first and 4 2022 first, and then also 5 2021 seconds and 6 2022 seconds. People aren't thinking about seconds that far in advance in the startup draft, but the value of those seconds is extremely valuable, and you'll see what I did with those seconds in the rookie draft this year. And if I didn't make those trades, I didn't accumulate all those small wins, I would not have been able to do what I was able to do. So basically, in the season, though, I wanted to trade out a lot of my veterans. I don't like keeping anyone that's above 25 years old when I'm in a rebuild, because that like shortens my value window, and like the value cliff hits for running backs like basically right there, and for wide receivers 1 or 2 years after. So I'm always keeping that mindful in my mind. So a couple guys I drafted in the veteran draft, in the startup draft, like Ryan Tannehill, right? I wanted to trade him away to a QB needy team in season. I drafted Cam Newton. Cam Newton was incredible value last year in drafts because I thought, he's going in the double-digit rounds, but I'm like, okay, well, if he gets a starting job and he puts up a couple nice games, you're going to be able to flip him for a first, which is exactly what I did in season. And then I also had Darren Waller. The reason why I had to get Darren Waller off my team, not because of age, because he was still pretty young for a tight end, but he was scoring way too many points, and I needed to make sure I secure the Trevor Lawrence. So I had to move off him. So in season, I made a lot of trades, right? Some of them are good, some of them are bad. The worst trade I made was I gave up Darren Waller, Teddy Bridgewater, and 2 2021 firsts for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2 2021 seconds, and 1 2022 seconds. So that was a really bad trade. That was at the peak of CEH hype. And my thought process there was, look, I think CEH is going to hold value. He's incredibly young. Young running backs hold value and increase in value year over year. But obviously, CEH did not live up to the hype. So that was probably one of my worst trades that I made. But the other trades that I made kind of like made up for it. I ended up giving up, in total, Cam Newton, Tannehill, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyler Higbee, Robert Tonyan, Travis Fulgham, 2021 second, 2021 fourth, and in return, I got Tua Tagovailoa, so basically reduced the age curve on my quarterbacks, and that was before the season really started and he played. So obviously he disappointed a little after that as well, but I still view that trade as good. And I landed an additional 2021 first, 2 more 2022 first, and 2 more 2021 seconds. So again, just kept adding to that arsenal. Now, if you just look at those trades along the CA trade, you probably could make the case that I lost on those trades, right? If I look back in hindsight. But there's really nothing groundbreaking there. But you could argue that I lost. But the thing is, all those trades above and adding that draft capital really kind of laid the foundation and groundwork for what was to come. What came after that in the rookie draft was beautiful. I could not have hoped for any better. So let's kind of walk through where we're at there. But first, let me show you on screen where my team was at the beginning of 2021. All right, so this is what I had on my team. Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back. At wide receiver, I had Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Boyd, Christian Kirk, Jalen Reagor, and Jacoby Myers. At tight end, I had Harrison Bryant. So that's it for the roster, right? No wonder why I got 1.01, but that was as intended. But in terms of picks, I ended up with 1.01, 1.12, 1.13, 2.01, 2.04, 2.05, 2.06, 210, 213, 3.01, 3.14, 4.01, and 4.14. So basically 6 second round picks, and you'll see how I turned those second round picks into gold to come. On top of that, I had 6 2022 firsts, 6 2022 seconds, 3 2022 thirds, 3 2022 fourths, and then one of each pick for 2023 except for seconds, which I had 2 of. So I had an arsenal, a war chest of draft capital, right? I basically had dominated 2021 and 2022 market share in terms of my picks. Now, the team doesn't look that good, right? But once you start flipping those draft assets, that's where the magic freaking happens, right? So next up, I'm going to bring up on screen for you guys, and I'll read it out loud too for those of you guys on the vocal pod on Spotify or Apple. But these are all the trades that I made, right? The only trade that I didn't make while I was on the clock is the first trade, which is the Trevor Lawrence trade. So before the NFL draft happened, I was looking to move Trevor Lawrence. And basically, I wanted to move him for a haul because I knew in a 14-team league, based on the hype that he had, I needed to do it because my team with Trevor Lawrence doesn't necessarily address all the holes, and I'm always looking for depth, especially in a 14-team deep starting roster. Depth is so important. So anytime you can flip a stud that's basically at peak value because he's already a first-round startup pick, anytime I can trade him out for more assets, I'm willing to do it, right? So after much negotiation, I ended up doing a deal to a contending team that needed a quarterback and needed Trevor Lawrence, and I traded away 1.01 for Chase Claypool, the 1.05 2023 first, right? I love the 2023 first class, like the rookie class there. A lot of stud running backs there, a lot of stud wide receivers, and a couple really good quarterbacks as well. So that class is going to run deep, where if you have late first in that class, you're still going to be landing some pretty good studs, very similar to 2020. Like, that's how confident I am in that class in terms of the running backs and the wide receiver talent available. But the reason why I made this trade was because I figured at 1.05, I still had a chance of landing Trey Lance, who I loved. I absolutely loved Trey Lance before the draft. But as I said, this occurred before the NFL draft. Obviously, after NFL draft, after Trey Lance went to San Francisco at 1.03 in the real NFL draft, I had no shot of landing 1.05. So I was totally wrong about that. But it was fine because it still gave me really, really good assets to work with. And that 1.05 laid the groundwork for what came after that, right? As you can see, The rest of the trades on here is going to happen basically when I'm on the clock. So all the trades are when I'm on the clock. So when I was talking about using that 1.05, what you see here in the second trade, I gave up the 1.05, a 2022 second, and I received the 1.08, the 2023 first, and another 23 second. So basically, the reason why I made this trade was someone decided to go a little bit outside the box and went with Travis Etienne at 1.04 in the draft. Not crazy, but crazy based on ADP. So basically, Kyle Pitts landed in my lap. Now, mind you, this is a tight end premium, a 2x tight end premium. That's very different from a 1.5x tight end premium, right? So every catch a tight end gets 2 PPR. Now, Kyle Pitts, as we all know, generational prospect. Everyone thinks he's the best prospect ever, right? The best prospect ever. So I figured when I was on the clock with this pick, somebody was going to be interested enough to land Kyle Pitts. And sure enough, someone fired me an offer, right? And the first offer wasn't really that appealing to me. It was like 1.08 plus like AJ Green for Kyle Pitts or something like that. So, most people would laugh at that and like get mad and argue and all that stuff. Here's why I don't do that, because I just went back and talked to him, and we engaged in conversations and found out he really wanted Kyle Pitts, right? Oh, sorry, I didn't find he really wanted Kyle Pitts, but I knew he wanted someone, and I just you approach it from a constructive manner instead of like insulting each other and laughing at offers and stuff like that. And this is what it landed on, right? It landed on something really, really good for me and for him as well, because he got his guy. And I figured at 1.08, there was still Zach Wilson, Jamar Chase, and Najee Harris available. So I was going to land one of these guys. So landing one of them, plus getting a 2023 first, plus getting a 2023 second to net out the 2022 second on top, was the moneymaker. So I basically netted a 2023 first to move back those 3 spots, which I really, really love. Again, because I love that 2023 class. And to be quite honest with you, out of the 3, I was hoping that Chase would land to me because he's really good for my rebuilding strategy. But in the second place, I wanted Najee to land to me because in a 14-team league with points per carry, 0.25 points per carry, running back value is elevated pretty damn substantially, right? Because of scarcity. Because again, just like quarterback, there aren't 28 running backs that you can start comfortably, right, in a 14-team league. So I was really, really happy, and this is when I made my first draft pick at 1.08. Najee Harris was still available. I clicked the draft button on Najee Harris. Now, I get it. There's age concerns. There's all that shit, whatever. But for me, I don't care. Like, I'm a big fan of Najee still. So I basically loved having him land to me there. And like at the end of the day, if I can give up Kyle Pitts for Najee Harris in 2023 first, potentially land me a future stud rookie running back or wide receiver, I'm going to do that all day, every day, twice on Sundays, 0 regrets. As good as Kyle Pitts is, as great of a prospect as he is, I don't care. I think that's the move. And honestly, in this format, you could even make the case that Najee is better than Chase just because he has first-round draft pedigree. He's going to get the volume, and because of scarcity, if anything, you try and trade him later for Chase and maybe even a little bit more, all right? So that was my first draft pick. All right. Now trade number 3. Let me put this back on the screen. Now I was sitting there in the late first. Now, if you remember, I had back-to-back picks at 1.12 and 1.13. At this point, Rashad Bateman, who's my wide receiver 2, Rondale Moore, who's my wide receiver 3, Elijah Moore, who's my wide receiver 5, I believe. Wide receiver 5 or 6, and then Devonta Smith, who's my wide receiver 5 or 6, are all on the board. So they're all available still. This is what I'm talking about in terms of delayed gratification. I wanted to take Bateman because I love Bateman as a prospect, right? But I still want to collect more 2023 first. And someone, again, approached me with an offer. They were offering their 2.02, I think, plus like a later second to move up to 1.12, right? And that's like interesting, and that might have been okay. But again, I'm trying to target 2023 first. So what I did was I countered with, hey, look, I'll give you back-to-back picks. As they did express interest in getting back-to-back picks. I'll give you both those picks, but I'll need the 2023 first back, and I'll need a little juicer on top, which was the 2023 second. The reason why I asked for that is because, again, there were players on the board that I actually really wanted. If there weren't players on the board that I wanted, then I would have been willing to let it go for a little bit more. But because there's players on the board that I wanted, and clearly there were players on the board that he wanted, I made that type of offer, and it ended up working out. After a couple counters back and forth, I basically landed a 2.02, 2023 first, and 2023 second for the 1.12 and the 1.13. And he ended up using those picks on Devonta Smith and Rashad Bateman. So great picks, good for him. But again, I'm delaying that value for future. And I picked up another pick in the second round. And then this is where you kind of see the compounding effects really start to take shape. For trade number 4, I was on the clock at 2.01, 2.02, and 2.02, right, after getting that 2.02 from before. Now, part of the reason why I made the prior trade was I thought there was a chance that maybe one of the guys that I wanted out of Bateman, both the Moores, or maybe even Smith, would fall to me at 2.01. I was mistaken. They all went off the board back to back to back. Sometimes it happens. It hurts. And what was left on the board was Trey Sermon, Terrace Marshall, and De'Ami Brown. So those are the guys that I was kind of considering. But again, someone else was interested and hit me up. And at the time, like, I didn't know who they wanted, but I just knew that I wanted another 2023 first. I looked at the roster. They do have a 2023 first, and they were willing to let it go, but they didn't want to do it just for one pick. So again, this is where the power of having so many second-round picks comes into play, because you can package a lot of them together and get that 2023 first. So it's kind of like you're moving up in the rookie draft. It's just that you have to delay that gratification until 2 years later. But because I'm in a rebuild, I don't care, because I know the value is going to go up, right? I'm getting that value accrual no matter what, so I don't mind prepaying early on to get that move early up. So I made that pick and I made that trade, and what ended up happening after the trade was, lo and behold, he did not pick the guys that I actually wanted, right? So the guys who I was targeting, and keep in mind, was Trey Sermon, Terrace Marshall, and De'Ami Brown. He took none of those guys. What he ended up taking was Michael Carter at 2.01, Kadarius Toney at 2.02. So for me, I was like, okay, well, I expected all those guys that I traded out of, like, to be gone by my next pick, which was 2.04. But that was clearly not the case, which is another lesson to say, like, when you trade back, you never know, especially in that, like, late first, like, early second, you never know how other people value their players, right? So you never know if that guy you like is going to fall back. You don't always have to pick your guy where you think you have to pick him. Sometimes you take a risk, you roll the dice, and sometimes it pays off exactly like this. So again, I'm sitting on the clock at 2.04 and 2.05, and I'm like, okay, well, Sermon and Marshall are still available, and so is De'Ami Brown, so I'm probably going to pull the trigger on a couple of these guys and see what happens. But again, someone else was interested in the pick, and they also had a 2023 first available. So what I did was I offered up Sermon, Marshall, my 2022 second. I'll put this trade back on the screen again, but I gave up 2.04, 2.05, and my 2022 second, and received a 2023 first and a 2023 second. And this time, as expected, Sermon and Marshall both flew off the board at 2.04 and 2.05. I almost picked them because I hadn't made any draft picks at this point, but I knew you gotta trust the process and keep that in mind. And I trusted the process, and I kept accumulating 2023 first, right? So that's basically what happened there. And at this point, after Sermon and Marshall were off the board, at 2.07, I made only my second pick in this rookie draft. I got my boy De'Ami Brown with the arrogant hands. Shout out to Jetpack Galileo on that one, friend of the show. But, at this point, like, 2.07 is basically almost like early third round in your typical draft. Because remember, there's a 14-team draft, and also there was like a pick that was granted 1.15 to the team that won, like, the lower bracket or something. So this is only my second round pick, my second pick of the draft. But more importantly, I got a guy that I really liked. De'Ami Brown, someone that I've been really high on coming in the draft. Now, draft capital, he didn't get second round draft capital. We got third round draft capital, which isn't a kiss of death. So I was happy about that. He landed with Washington Redskins, which isn't that good because they don't have a long-term quarterback. But for this year, it could be good because Fitzmagic is a gunslinger and De'Ami Brown absolutely blazes. So I was kind of pleased with the value that I got there before moving on to the next trade and next pick. So the next trade, here I was sitting on 2.09 and 2.10, right? And there really wasn't anyone else that I really wanted left on the draft board. So this is where I'm like, okay, I'm really hoping that someone can move some 2023 seconds or 2022 seconds for me. Someone actually jumped in my inbox at this time and made an offer for Tua Tagovailoa, who is the only quarterback that I have on my roster. Now, I really like Tua, right? I would have liked to hold him, but this person also happened to be one of the few players in the league that has multiple first-round picks. He had 2 2022 first and 1 2023 first. Now, that's hard to see because, as you guys have seen, I've basically gobbled up all the rookie picks in 2022, so it's tough to see someone like that has the capital. So, again, I just engaged in conversation. His first offer was not very attractive at all, but instead of, like, laughing it off, you just go in, you start talking, and you build that relationship, you build that bridge, try and gauge what they're looking for. And I ended up landing on this deal where I gave up Tua, 2.09, 2.10, and I received his 2022 first, his 2023 first, and his 2023 second. And this team, I think, based on my judgment, is more of like a middle of the pack team. They're not like a top contender, but they're not bottom of the barrel either. So it could go either way. So the reason why I like these trades is because if it breaks my way and his team hits a couple injuries or his team doesn't work out as panned out, then what he's doing is he's blowing up his team for future picks, and I have his future picks. So I'm going to get those early picks in those future years. So those are the types of teams that I love doing business with, right? A lot of upside to go from there. All right. So, but the bad part is this let go of the only quarterback on my roster. So now I have no quarterbacks on my roster, but I'm not worried. Why? Because I have a bunch of first-round picks in 2022, a bunch of first-round picks in 2023. I have both of my own picks, and given my team where it's at, I've all but locked up the 1.01. So I'm looking at a potential pick of Spencer Rattler, whoever the top quarterback is in the future draft. So I'm not too worried about replenishing picks there. But I really love getting out of those late-round second picks, which are more like third-round picks in traditional drafts, and landing first-round picks in future years. Again, just securing my value going forward. And it's I cannot stress this enough, man. Like, rookie picks at this stage, like 1 or 2 years out, is the most undervalued asset in all of Dynasty. So make sure you guys take advantage, all right? And then at 3.01, this is my third and final draft pick of this rookie class. I drafted Hunter Long. Now, am I a Hunter Long truther? No, but he has decent draft capital, has solid college production, is a pretty damn good athlete based on the relative athletic score by @MathBombs. I think he scored like 8 point something out of 10, so that's pretty damn good for this class. And I think he's not as far away from Pat Freiermuth as people think. Definitely does not warrant a full round discount because Freiermuth went in 2.03, I believe, and Hunter Long got a 3.01. Again, this is a 2 PPR tight end premium, so at that point, I feel pretty damn comfortable throwing that dart. But more importantly, let's circle back a little bit, right? This was the last pick I made in this draft. I only made 3 total picks in this entire draft, and I entered the draft with 13 picks. 3 in the first round, like 6 in the second round, a bunch of others, right? And that's like the key is like, you know, people always talk about how like rookie picks are incredibly risky. You miss 50% of them is basically a coin flip. And I just cannot disagree with that type of thinking more. And rookie picks are only really risky if you decide to use all those rookie picks on drafting rookie players. That's when they're risky. But if you employ this type of strategy that I have by pushing value out or trading out into veterans or doing whatever, you can always realize the value of rookies. And especially between now and the draft, like the value is going to continue to increase. So I do not view them as risky at all. My strategy when it comes to rookies, I hoard all the picks, but when it comes to the rookie draft, I rarely use all of them. In fact, most of the time I use less than half of them, right? Especially in the first round. I'll use like a couple of them and trade out and trade back and get future picks. And it's easy fucking money, boys and girls. It's easy fucking money, and people like fade all the noise that says rookie picks are rookie draft picks and rookie first round picks are risky. It's like people just don't know what they're doing and how to take advantage. That's why they land on that type of opinion. But if you know what you're fucking doing and you plan this shit out, right? Not every draft will turn out like this, right? I had some luck along the way, had some really good trade partners along the way, but this is the aim. And most of my drafts land somewhere a little bit less than this, but still following that same mantra. So that is the way to play Dynasty, in my opinion. That is the best way. That is the way that worked the best for me. Now, I'll sum up the last couple of trades in one go here, but trades 7, 8, and 9. Basically, these are third round and fourth round darts, right? And Gus Edwards, someone just threw that in my inbox, and I smashed accept really quickly. Someone offered me a 2023 third for Gus Edwards, and I was like, all right, well, and no need to counter here. I'll absolutely take that value and take that flexibility. But I traded the 3.14 and the 4.14 for a future third and a future fourth, right? And not only is that good because those are like the last picks in the draft, so I'm already going to gain some value if those teams don't win the league because I'm going to move up in those drafts just by the nature of that trade. But also, people tend to undervalue third and fourth round picks, in my opinion. And here's why. Like third and fourth round picks alone on their own in the absolute vacuum do not have much value. I completely agree with that, right? But where they do have value is when you have a hoard and a treasure chest of rookie picks, which I do, they provide a ton of value because they give you anchoring spots in the rookie draft to trade back to, right? You can trade back, and they give you ammo to move up, right? Make small moves in the second round, and in the third round, you can use those future third round picks and fourth round picks, and you can continue to move up and down. It gives you that flexibility to maneuver and navigate the draft while accumulating value, but also not missing out on the players that you want to get. So that's why I think third round and fourth round picks are still valuable. And lastly, it allows you to push value into future years like I did, right? I talked about this in the beginning of the video, but like once the players are off the board and you don't really have anyone you're interested in, let someone else grab their guy and push that value forward and push that decision forward, so you don't have to you're not forcing the decision of drafting a bust. That those third round, fourth round picks add value because they can act as value plugs in trades. They can act as ammo to move up and down. They do hold value, so do not write them off, all right? So that's all the trades. Again, I'll put up on screen real quick. This is a summary of all the trades I made. 9 trades total. So I'll let you know, in this league, throughout the draft, there were 11 total trades in the league. I was involved in 9 of them, and I probably sent out and countered like 3x that. So probably 30 offers that were sent out back and forth. So always be hustling, man. Like, people always complain about not being able to trade back. You got to send out volume trades. Like, when I'm on the clock, I'm sending trades out to 5, 6, 7 people that I think make sense, and I'm blasting them, right? And then people are sending me offers, and if they send me an offer, I don't just decline. I'll decline, but I'll go into chat with them and try and figure out and learn if there's a common working ground. Now, sometimes you get a low baller, and there's not like much much investment, or not much return to investing more time with that. But more often than not, like, if you don't take a shot, you never know. So again, this is a volume game. So you got to send out offers and engage in trade talks and build trade relationships in order to get trades done. So that's another key lesson learned. All right. Now I'm going to put up on screen. This, I think, is a really, really powerful visual, and I'll read it out for those of you that are not on the YouTube, but this shows the net effect of all of my trades in the draft, all right? So in terms of picks and in terms of players. So I'll read out in terms of picks first. Basically, I gave up Tua Tagovailoa and Gus Edwards, who are already on my roster, the 1.01, the 1.12, the 1.13, the 2.01, the 2.10, the 2.13, a third, a fourth, and 2 2022 seconds, and I received Chase Claypool, 1.08, 2022 first, one of them, and 6 2023 first, and 4 2023 seconds, right? I cannot stress enough how powerful that is, because now I have 7 2023 first. I own 50% of the market share of both 2022 and 2023 first. And that's going to give me the flexibility and the power to do this and keep rolling this type of value forward and really dominate your dynasty leagues, right? People are not going to be able to get out from underneath me in like 1 or 2 years, I think. I'm going to absolutely crush this league, and I'm 100% confident saying that, unless I just draft like 100% bust for the next 3 years and also don't make any trades. But I don't think that's going to happen. But if we convert it to players, this is where it's really powerful. Once you start assigning player names to picks, I gave out Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, Devonta Smith, Rashad Bateman, Michael Carter, Tylan Wallace, Amari Rodgers, Khalil Herbert, Jamie Newman, Gus Edwards, and 2 2022 seconds. In return, I got Najee Harris, Chase Claypool, a 2022 first, 6 2023 first, 4 2023 seconds, 2022 third, and 2023 third, and 2022 fourth. Now, I'm going to come back to this video a couple years from now once I finish that 2023 draft, and you're going to see the power that I made here, right? Especially once most of those players that I listed off that I gave away are going to end up being busts. So you're going to see the power of what this is going to be in 1 or 2 years. But I think that's a really powerful visual and a really powerful illustration and practical example of what I mean when I say compounding effect or cascading effect of trading down, right? I took that 1.01, which started everything, right, and gained like so many 2023 first and so many other draft capital along the way. And that's the power of trading back. That's the power of really understanding your league mates and understanding what their needs are, and actually being creative when it comes to trades and packaging a bunch of seconds, trying to land 2023 first, and having all that arsenal of 2022 seconds, which is why when people say like, oh, the seconds aren't worth much, 2022 class sucks, it's completely bogus, because it might suck to you and you might think it's weak, but someone out there has players that they like, and everyone out there has players that they like and are willing to trade for. So Even though the class itself, a couple players you might think is weak, you cannot discount the entire rookie class asset, the rookie pick asset as a class, because that provides option value that a player name doesn't. Once you attach a player name to it, then I get it. You can value it however you see fit. But until you attach the player to it, those picks will always have that type of premium value. And this is the result. And I'm incredibly happy with where I landed here. And the last thing I'll show you here is my before and after of my team. So before, this is my roster, right? Tua, Clyde, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Boyd, Christian Kirk, Jalen Reagor, Jacoby Myers, Harrison Bryant, a bunch of 2021 first, a bunch of 22 first, and one 2023 first. Now, after all the trades and after the draft, I have no quarterbacks, which, again, I'm not worried about. That's actually good for me because it means that I won't have any quarterbacks scoring to my lineup. This league is based on potential points for, so this all but secures my 1.01 in next year's draft. And then in running backs, I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Najee Harris, right? And I have wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Boyd, Christian Kirk, Jalen Reagor, Jacoby Myers, and I added De'Ami Brown in the class. And then tight end, I added Hunter Long to Harrison Bryant. So in my 2021 picks, I started with 13 picks overall. I ended up only using 3 of them to land Najee, Brown, and Hunter Long. And then I increased my 2022 firsts from 6 to 7. And the kicker and the beauty and the gold pot and everything that I worked for, I increased my 2023 first from 1 to 7. And my 2023 seconds from 1 to 5. So I'm going to be in business. And the other beauty of this is, like, because I'm in a productive struggle, I don't have to worry about like setting lineups at all in this league. So it really like kind of reduces the labor on that front. But look, I'm incredibly happy with where this league and where this draft landed up, because I'm going to be able to replicate this type of strategy because of the market share dominance I have on rookie drafts in 2022, in 2023, and I can keep doing that and rolling forward. And eventually, I'm guessing by 2023, I'm going to have a pretty fucking dominant team, right? If not by 2022, I might have it by 2022. And when I build that dominant team, it's going to be consisting primarily of a core asset pool of really young studs, similar to how I've done turnarounds in the past. If I did productive struggles, I did a lot of them in 2019 with the aim of turning around in 2020. Sorry, struggling with speaking today, but in 2020. And that's where, because you want to target a class that has a lot of stud running backs, basically. That's how you do the really quick turnaround. So I'm targeting 2023. And this team is going to be a beast, because I'm gonna add like a bunch of young running backs, a bunch of young wide receivers in 2022. I'll probably add some quarterbacks as cornerstones to my team, and then by that point, I won't worry as much about getting the 1.01 in 2023, because I'll have a lot of everyone else's picks, and one of them will probably be early picks. So again, this just really sets myself up for a lot of flexibility. It's really fun, right? That's the other thing. Like, at the end of the day, you want to have fun when you're playing, and I really love doing these productive struggles, even though it means I have to lose for a couple of years. But if I'm looking long run, for the long haul, it really sets you up for success, and it really sets you up to build a dynasty, a true dynasty, not just a championship team for 1 year, a dynasty that is a top contender year after year after year after year, right? That's how you get the ROI on your investment. That's how you make money playing dynasty, and that's how you have fun, and that's how I build dynasties. All right, so hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's all I got for you guys today. I had the examples. I'll actually, like I said, I'll drop the Twitter thread that I made in the comments as well, so you guys can follow along there and kind of track that. And like I said, in a year or 2 years, I'll just keep updating this and showing you where my productive struggle has gone, starting when I started in 2020 to where I'll be in 2022 and 2023. If you guys enjoyed this type of content, please hop in the comments, let me know. I'll try and do more of them in the future, either through Twitter or YouTube or whatever, or in the Patreon most likely. And if you didn't like it, let me know why too, man. I'm always looking for feedback. Again, thank you guys for the support. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. It helps us more than you know. And as always, don't forget, man, to come check out the Patreon, patreon.com/ourpack. And join up on the Wolfpack community. It's freaking lit in there, man, especially right now during rookie draft season. I'm in there all the time. People are in there all the time. We're talking rookies. We're talking drafts, talking startups, anything, any flavor you need. If you want to be a true dynasty degen like myself and just really understand the ins and outs of game theory and how to apply it to dynasty, I promise you this, there's no better product or service out there for you than my Patreon. I say that confidently. I say that based on the feedback that I've gotten. You get in there, you're going to talk with a lot of other smart people that also can give you really valuable opinions and advice outside of me. So, again, if you're interested in that stuff, hop on over there. If not, if you want something more casual, maybe something more fun, hop on over to the BDGE Discord, right? Nick, Noah, and the squad is always in there helping you guys with the redraft. There'll be a lot of redraft content in there. I have no redraft in my Discord. But also a little bit of Dynasty too, and a lot of lifestyle, stonks, working out, all that stuff. That's another dope place to be. And then lastly, make sure you guys grab the BDG draft guide. It is going to be a living, breathing document that will be updated throughout. I'm going to be writing strategy articles. I'm going to be writing articles on 2022 wide receivers, 2022 running backs, a lot of stuff. Probably, I'm thinking about doing a rebuild strategy, productive struggle and rebuild strategy write-up guide for this year as well. So make sure you guys check all those things out, bdg.store. All the links will be in the YouTube comments below, so make sure you guys check all that out and see what it is that, pick the right product for you, man. We got it all at Big Dogs. We're trying to service the community. We're trying to build the community. We're trying to build something special. So thank you guys for all the support. If you've been with us from the jump, if you've been with us from whenever, and thank you guys. If any of you guys are new subscribers thinking about clicking, I promise you will not be disappointed. That's all I got for you this week. Until next time, another episode of Market Watch Mondays. I'm out. Peace.